Man, modern day. As a native Texan from Houston, Texas, that is, I gotta say, modern day is always consistent. They've been winning for a long time with Coach Bruce Rollinson. They did their thing. They won last night. They destroyed Duncanville, 45-3. I mean, that was a beatdown. That was just outclassed. Just man, they forced their will on Duncanville. Now let me be objective. This Duncanville team is not like the past teams. It's not like 2018. It's nothing to take away from modern day. They're a great team. Um, they've been winning a lot of great games. I remember, I think it was last year or 2 years ago. 2 years ago, they beat IMG, and you already know IMG recruits like crazy. Shout out to J&J. Thank you for supporting all the videos, my sister. Hit the like button when you go in. Now, I knew this was going to happen. I knew once Modern Day, because a lot of Texas folks knew that Modern Day was going to win. When you have an open enrollment and you have a great coach like Bruce Wallinson, most likely you're going to win. So they did what they were supposed to do. Now, there were a lot of people in the chats saying that this is the best Texas team. Oh, we just beat the best Texas team. Duncanville is not the best Texas team right now. They have respect in Texas, but they haven't won a championship since 1998. I wouldn't call them a blue blood of Texas. That's reserved for teams like Katy, Allen, Southlake, Carroll. You know, those type of teams. Alito. Now, Modern Day would have beaten those teams too, but they would not just score 3 points. You're not going to just beat those teams like that. But I have to say, there were a lot of buffoonery. I mean, a tons. Hey, Macrina Daniel, you beat one team, you destroy one team in Texas, and all of a sudden, Texas, oh, they're not all that, and they ain't got no athletes. It's funny that they mention that because when their coaches from Pac-12 schools recruit Texas players, and I mean the top Texas players, they're not saying all that. Look at the SEC. Look at Alabama. Notable Texas players. Louisiana. Shout out to Louisiana. They got talent. So we already know who's top five in talent. Top five in talent is number one, Florida. You got to put Florida. Coin flip from Texas to California. It really doesn't matter. Louisiana and Ohio. That's the top five. That is the standard of the most talented states in football. Period. But that Modern Day Duncanville game is a bad matchup. When you play Modern Day, if you don't have more talent than them, you better have some good coaching. And Reginald Samples, he's a respected coach. He has done a lot for brothers getting coaching jobs. I have so much respect for him and what he has done for Duncanville. He did the same thing in Skyline. He did the same thing in Lincoln. He put people on. He provides scholarships. He gives players an opportunity to get scholarships from the inner cities. I couldn't thank him enough. But a team like Mater Dei, and again, they would have won anyway because the Texas UIL, and I'm about to go in on them. I'm really about to go in on the Texas UIL. They're the reason why. They're the reason why Texas doesn't have an IMG level team. Can you imagine if Texas had open enrollment? Can you imagine some of these teams that would be built? I'm going to give an example. Allen has top-notch facilities, top-notch coaching, X's and O's, a high-class level. If they had open enrollment, everybody and their mama would be going to that school. Duncanville. Can you imagine if Duncanville had open enrollment? The kids from the talented kids from Lancaster, South Oak Cliff, around those areas will be going there. DeSoto, same thing. Mr. Lee says Duncanville is not the best school in Texas. They're not. And they keep saying that. I don't know why they keep, they're because they were ranked 13th nationally. But I'm going to keep it real with y'all. Duncanville was only ranked 13th nationally due to reputation. That was it. I knew they weren't better than Converse Judson or Katy. I knew they weren't. Shout out to the homie, the Pope. This was a down year for Duncanville. I told my friends this who live in Texas. They didn't want to believe me. So Mater Dei took care of business and beat a Duncanville team who has talent, but they're not like what they were in the past. They're not North Shore, or the list goes on. But again, let me reiterate, it wouldn't have made a difference, but none of the other top Texas teams would just score 3 points. That's all I'm saying. And shout out to Cali, man. They got talent out there. I respect Cali. I respect them. The Pope says Mater Dei is not the best team in Cali either. Who's the best team, the Pope? Is it John Bosco? John Bosco got some talent. Mr. Lee says, John Bosco, yeah, they really good. I got to check them out. I know they'll play some ESPN games. Mr. Lee said, facts. I live out here in Dallas, and I could tell you Duncanville is good, but definitely not the best. Allen would definitely beat the brakes off them. Katy, Euless, Trinity, too. I'm trying to tell them, bro. I'm trying to tell them. But they think I'm taking away from Mater Dei for saying that. No, the real ones in Texas, they know who the best are. They know who the best are. Duncanville right now is just a good team. They're not what they were in 2018 when they had so many recruits, offensive, defensive line so elite that it would cause problems. Now, in the comment section, I want y'all to answer this. If Mater Dei played North Shore, Katy, Euless, or Allen, do you think they would have beat them 45-3? Be real with me. Now, I still have Mater Dei winning because they got a couple of more players. They're the IMG of the West, pretty much. They got open enrollment. You could go anywhere from California to go to Mater Dei. You could live 3 hours from where Mater Dei is and still go to that school. Takes nothing away, but this is the UIL's fault. Since the Texas UIL has politics, I call it, and they don't want these teams to flourish, they penalizing kids for making image and likeliness. That's why Quinn Ewers had to leave South Lake Carroll early, because Texas didn't want that brother to make any dough. So he did the right thing and reclassified, and now he's at Ohio State a year early. That's what I'm talking about. I knew when Duncanville scheduled this game, I said, oh, man, this year's Duncanville team is not ready for Mater Dei. I knew it. So when I see that 45-3 score, I'm not surprised. Mr. Lee in the chat's not surprised. They're a good team, but when you play Mater Dei, you better be better than good. Mr. Lee says, no, not 45-3. even if those schools would have lost, it would have been close. I would love for Allen or Madison or Cypress to have played modern day. Yeah, Mr. Lee, I respect that you actually know your Texas football, because in the chat we know more California football than Texas, because we talking about John Bosco and others who can compete with the modern day. But when I read articles, they were capping like a mug saying that Duncanville was the best team in Texas, and that's not even true. That's not even close to true. I was watching highlights of Katy. Katy plays fundamentally sound. They don't make too many mistakes. They got a lot of D1 players, and it's a public school. I doubt they would have been blown out by Mater Dei. The Pope says Eisenhower High School whooped Mater Dei in 94, 50 something to 3. Talk to him, the Pope. So it's been done before. But all I got to say is the Texas UIL wasn't so strict and allow kids to go where they want, have a choice. It's 2021. This is supposed to be the year of choice. You're free to choose what you want to do. If the Texas UIL wasn't so damn strict, maybe we would have teams like a modern day. They're the same way with TAPS, TAPPS. That's private schools in Texas. You know how much talent they would bring in if the TAPS commission didn't have those strict policies? They would have given scholarships to talented kids so they could play on better teams and get a better education. But they didn't want that because coaches in Texas, not all, would be bitching and complaining about a team getting so much talent. Yeah, the Pope, modern day is always nice. Every single sport, they're nice. And they got the #1 corner playing for them last name, Damani Jackson. He's committed to USC. He's a 5-star. Had to pick the first play and took it to the house. He's a bad boy, man. He's a bad boy. But when you got shut down corners that are 5 stars on each end, on each class, that's when you know you're loaded. Mr. Lee says, Euless Trinity is a tough team. They have all the Pacific Islanders along with the fundamentally sound. DeSoto is also a good choice because they get a lot of athletes from the Dallas region too. Yeah, and I know DeSoto lost, but Converse Judson is really good. Converse Judson has that one class. All it takes is one good class of of kids buying in and taking well to coaching. That's all it takes. I want you all to do me a favor. I want you all to share this video to all the comment sections, everybody, so they can hold a discussion and have dialogue. Because I'm tired of the buffoonery. If the roles were reversed, let's say Katy beats a talented California team by 45-3. Let's say Katy does that, right? You wouldn't see me say California doesn't have talent. Texas is better than California. I wouldn't say it. I know Texas and California are up there. I know #1 is Florida. Florida's got to be #1. They produce so much talent, it's crazy. And I'm a Texas native saying this. But shout out to Duncanville, man. Y'all kids keep y'all head up, man. But these teams in Texas, y'all got to schedule smart, man. Like if Katy would have played modern day, I would have understood, even if they would have lost. Because Katy plays a style where they play like a pro-style offense, and they established the run at Katy. They play a type of offense where defenses just fall asleep and then catch them by surprise. I've seen Katie play so many times in state games. They don't beat themselves. They don't beat themselves. Again, I don't think they would have beaten Modern Day, but they wouldn't have lost like that. Katie has a lot of pride, man. Good says, I grew up in Modern Day. You grew up knowing it's a university of high schools. It is, man. To be an athlete at Modern Day, you better be good. That's how loaded their roster is year in, year out. Same thing for St. John Bosco. If you ain't got game, you're not going to be on their roster. And shout out to Florida. Because while California is talking about how they better than Texas and all this stuff, let's keep this known right now. Florida is number one. Number two is a toss-up from Texas and California. Shout out to my guy, Ant Learn, man. What's good with you, coach? He said a lot of these teams get paid to play these loaded schools. Exactly. Except for Texas, because Texas got that strict ass UIL. Oh, you just opened the Pandora's box, Ant Learn. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, some of these teams do be having these 20-year-olds on the roster that need to be already in college. Mr. Lee says Florida produces athletes, Texas produces football players. That's the difference. One advantage that I could be proud of my home state, Texas, about doing, when there's a player from the state of Texas and he's that guy, whether it's quarterback or running back or receiver, they're usually a Hall of Fame or a franchise-changing player. Look at all the quarterbacks from Texas, the state of Texas, that is. Yeah, Cali does produce legends. We can't take that away from them. Can't take that away from them. But, man, shout out to all the quarterback coaches at Texas, man. I don't know what they do in that state, but maybe it's the facilities, but they be on it. Yeah, Tom Brady's from the Bay Area, as well as Aaron Rodgers. The Pope says, I think Chino Hills whooped them by 30. Boy, that Chino Hills team with Lonzo, LaMelo, and Jello, that's something that we would never see again, that fast-paced type of team. And the worst thing to do against that Chino Hills team is run and press. Because you got Lonzo breaking that press, and he had the IQ. When Lonzo was playing in high school, he was literally the Tom Brady of point guards because you couldn't outthink him. You try to trap Lonzo ball, he's breaking that. And I can honestly say, when Lonzo left, that Chino Hills team was not the same because nobody was willing to play defense. But LaMelo was young, so I can't really fault him for that. He was young. But yeah, that team, that 2015-16 Chino Hills team was something. And Learn says, you know what's crazy? We have so much talent in Florida, but our facilities suck compared to other states. Man, I got to give Florida props. If Florida had Texas's facilities, can you imagine another step they could go? Like, it'd be something scary. Even scarier than what it is now. But one thing I appreciate the state of Texas, man, we love our football, man. We support the players, and I'm not saying no other state does. But the way they support the players, it's everything. Football is everything in Texas. When you're rooting for a team and they lose on that Friday night or Saturday night, it's like the worst feeling in the world. In other states, you lose a football game, hey, I hate that we lost, but we'll get them another time. In the state of Texas, when you lose a football game, It's like your whole week is crushed until you win big again. You got to win big again to keep your head up. That's how much Texas is like a religion out there in Texas in football. Jane just says, no doubt, the Bulls goons enjoy having talent on board. Oh yeah, they're gonna be fun. Uh, Coach Ant Learn says we had girls, a girls high school team like Chino Hills in the early 2000s. They had won like 100 straight games. Got out of town beating the best teams. I gotta do some research, bro, on that. That's interesting. And and brother, I bet a lot of people were complaining when they was running up the scores, because they was doing that at Chino Hills, man. Like Chino Hills would beat a team by 80, almost to 100, and then certain teams would complain to the newspapers about it. And when you're losing, it doesn't matter if it's by 40 or 80. You know, you can't. I don't believe in teams um, just slowing down. Because if they're slowing down, then the backups who are eventually become starters years after would not develop. So I believe in full throttle. If you're that good, keep pressing on them. Mr. Lee says Louisiana and Florida definitely would produce the most players if they had Texas facilities. Oh, of course, they would. And Mr. Lee's from Texas, so he keeping it objective in this comment section. I see you, JJ. Antler says, look up Jacksonville Ribble girls basketball team. I'm gonna look. I'm gonna do some reading on that. But I think that's impressive. Shout out to Jacksonville, Florida. Jacksonville got some athletes, man. But I'm gonna tell you a place, not a state, but just a place that got talent in Florida. Dade County, Broward County. If you're a top-notch athlete from those areas, you know you're gonna make it to the league. The stats prove it. Antler says the one high school coach that we was one of the top teams in the country. Linwood out of California beat our ass by 30. Oh man, it happens. And brother, I bet when you guys lost, I bet you no one was saying, "Oh, Florida athletes suck" and all this stuff. I bet you none of them was saying that. Yeah, Lamar Jackson is from Broward County. Shout out to Broward County. They just keep producing athletes all the time. Oh, and learn. They know better than to talk trash about Florida athletes. But that's why I made this video. Cause I saw so many people just acting like buffoons. You beat one good Texas team, and all of a sudden, Texas ain't got no talent. One good Texas team, and all of a sudden, Texas ain't doing it like California. Come on, man. I got to give credit to Florida. When I think it was like Miami Northwest, and Antler, correct me if I'm wrong, they came down to Texas in the later 2000s. They beat South Lake Carroll. They destroyed South Lake Carroll in Texas. They weren't talking about, oh, Texas ain't got no studs. Texas ain't got no players. They knew they were going to win. Yeah, Miami Northwesters, thank you for that, Antler. They knew they were going to win. That's when you know you're good. They knew they were better than South Lake Carroll. So it wasn't a surprise when they beat him. That's confidence. That's knowing that you're a baller. Last night they beat Duncanville, and they was talking big shit. They were saying, shout out to Dexter's Crockett, New Media Nation United is a family. You already know what it is. They were talking about, is that the best you got, Texas? Come on, man. Come on. but still trying to recruit top-notch Texas players. That's like if the university if Texas A&M was recruiting a Florida player. That's like if they were recruiting a Florida player that's top 50 in the nation, and they go out there and say that Florida doesn't recruit top-notch athletes. Come on, man. Why would you say that? Why would you say that when you're trying to recruit the best out of the state? It makes no sense. Antler says Duncanville used to have a really good girls basketball team. Yeah, I think it was from the 2009 year to 13 or 14. Yeah, that Duncanville's girls team, that team was so loaded that a lot of their starting five went to the Big 12. And right now, the Duncanville's basketball team is producing some top-notch athletes. Look out for a name, Ronald Holland, but they call him Ron Holland. One of the best defensive players in the country. He's in the class of 2023, Duncanville. Mr. Lee says, I would love to see what one of the top black schools in Texas would do if they had same coaching and discipline as Southlake. Oh, boy. That's a discussion. That's a discussion that will open up a lot of conversation right there. The black schools, the urban schools in Texas. Shout out to the brothers who are coaching them. But really, what makes Southlake discipline and Katy discipline and Allen discipline, they have so many coaches on their coaching staff. Like Allen, when they played Plano East, they beat them like 56-30. It could have been more. If you look on the pictures and the highlights, you could have sworn that Allen had 25 coaches out there. It's really the numbers. They got a lot of money to do that. So if Duncanville had or Dallas Carter, those inner South Oak Cliff, if they were able to have 20 coaches on the sideline, it makes a difference. Antler said that's another issue. A lot of the top schools down here just winning on talent. The coaching, not that good out here, man. And you already know how it is, Antler, because you're a coach. There are a lot of coaches who give other coaches a job because that's their homie and they're trying to look out for them. You can't afford to do that when you want to win, man. If I'm a coach and I got a bunch of homies calling me up saying, hey, I would love to coach with your team. I know you could hook it up. I'll be like, man, what's your credentials? See, Allen, a lot of their coaches, a lot of them may not even be close friends, but they know that they're top-notch coaches and they can help them win. That's why Allen was destroying this one team last night. Because it's not personal, it's business. They're trying to win. But yeah, man, good coaching changed everything. But before I go, I want to say, man, thank y'all for supporting the channel. Shout out to all the states, though, man. Shout out to all the athletes. At the end of the day, Florida, Texas, California, Louisiana, and Ohio are top 5 in football. Nothing changes. It is what it is. And you could really put Georgia at 5, really. But I'm going to give Ohio love because they do produce talent. But I'm going to try to make as much videos as I can. I've been busy lately. I've been doing all these double shifts. But, yeah, it was a great discussion. Modern day, shout out to y'all. Keep doing y'all thing, man. Shout out to all the athletes who are trying to get scholarships. Trying to change their future, man. My younger brother was a D1, Division I football player. And I know how it was like, man. Just praying for my brother to get some scholarships. And when he did, man, it was the happiest moment around. So shout out to y'all, man. Chase your dreams. New Media Nation United. It's a family. It's what we do. And I'm out.